on record saying the only way to get in this crypto game is to start learning, and it's easier than you think. Go watch this video. It's free on my website. You don't have to put a credit card in. You can watch it now. There's different times you can register. Click the link right here and go watch this. We're going to talk about, for those of you who are beginners, how do you get a wallet? How do you even buy a coin? It's a little bit tricky if you don't know what you're doing, right? It's not as simple as going to your bank. We're going to talk about how to store it securely, how to transfer it. We'll talk about some coins that we think there's potential and some coins you should avoid. The state of Texas just outlawed one coin that a lot of people thought was a Ponzi scheme. You don't want, the people that have been watching my videos, I've been warning people about that coin because my mentors in crypto told me don't buy that one. So that's what I mean by educating yourself. The bright lights out here. So I hope you won't gamble away. You know, Vegas is all about, it's fun, but there's a lot of suckers here that are getting their money taken by these big casinos. That's why they're billion-dollar casinos. In the same way, a lot of people don't understand crypto, and they're just getting in and buying coins because their uncle and their grandma told them. That's not a good enough way to do it. You need to teach yourself. Do not procrastinate in 2018. You will miss trends. Okay, so we'll also talk about some coins that I think are, you know, they may disappear. There's some people going to put their money in crypto and
Welcome, everyone, to this 2018 State of the City Address. Decatur High School senior Michaela Walker will now sing for us the national anthem. Would you please rise?
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glow, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? Thank you.
Thank you for that beautiful rendition, Michaela. And I'm going to ask you again to rise as we now recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much for coming to this beautiful facility today. We are really fortunate to have this new Performing Arts and Events Center to hold events like this. And increasingly, we've been having, in addition to the outstanding performances of both national and regional performers, our local regional performing groups have performed here a number of times, and many have come to enjoy those events. But also, we've had some community events that are very special and recognizing the diversity of our community. And in addition, there have been some private rentals, which of course bring income into the city and provide a space for conferences and other happenings. But we are here today to get updated on what's going on in our city. And so I would like to introduce to you my friend, Mayor Jim Ferrell.
Wow. What a turnout. Thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. Boy, can you believe this beautiful facility? And let's give Michaela Walker from Decatur High School another round of applause. Wasn't that great? Thank you, Michaela. Now, before we get too far into the speech, or before we get too far, there's a few folks I want to introduce. Most importantly, my beautiful wife, Wendy, and son, Benjamin. We've got our own King County Councilman, Pete Von Reichbauer. Pete? Well, I didn't see we had folks up on the balcony. Hey, you guys. Look at that. My gosh. We've got my policy partners on the City Council, Deputy Mayor Susan Honda and council members Deanie Duclos, Martin Moore, Lydia Sefa-Dawson, Mark Kopang, Jesse Johnson, and Hong Tran. Let's give them a big round of applause. You know, their vision and their persistence in moving forward that really made this happen. Thank you, Council, for being such great policy partners. And talking about partners, we've got our Federal Way Public Schools present. Dr. Tammy Campbell is present. We've got School Board President Claire Wilson. And Vice President and other members Jeffrey McAnally, Carol Gregory, Dr. Mildred Olay, and Hiroshi Ito. Thank you so much for being here. From South King Fire and Rescue, we've got Chief Al Church, Board of Commissioners Bill Gates, our chair of that, Vice Chair Mark Thompson, James or Jimbo Fassos, Bill Fuller, and John Rickert. Let's give them a round of applause. Lake Haven Utility District, General Manager John Bowman, and Commissioners President Tim McLean, Vice President Don Miller, Secretary Peter Sanchez, and members Ron Nowicki and Len England. Thank you very much. Now, I took the time because I think it is important for the city government. Your city government is one of several local elected governments, and we're all partners together to make this happen. I also want to thank every single staff member of the City of Federal Way in all 12 departments for their hard work building up to this, building up the city every single day. As mayor, we depend on all of you to make our vision a reality. Thank you very much. I'm also particularly indebted to my executive assistant, Kathy Arndt. She makes the trains run on time and keeps everything running smoothly. And she's was helping to coordinate this event as well. So thank you, Kathy. We also, as we celebrate this beautiful venue, we have all the folks that are working here on behalf of the city that are back here and making all these things move and making magic. Isn't this a beautiful facility? Absolutely. I think we all recall watching this be built, sometimes brick by brick in certain places. Other times it looked like a set of Lincoln logs with the large beams put in, but one by one they came into place. Before I go on, I also want to thank all of the volunteers and commission members and all of those individuals in this community, and you know who you are, who give your time and your energies for the people of this community. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, together we build. When I was a young boy, I remember sitting in the church that my family attended. And I distinctly remember one Sunday service when I noticed, probably because I wasn't paying attention to the sermon at the time, a huge banner across the hall that read, "Together we build." And during the course of that sermon, I kept looking at that banner and pondering its meaning. Later, the pastor started talking about the phrase and explained what it was all about. We were building a new chapel, a new building, a new church. But that phrase meant more than a new chapel or a new building. I may not have completely understood it then, but I learned that day from the pastor that if we're not growing in building, we are in the process of dying. Together we build became the focal point of that church and its movement forward. The point is that every organization, a church, a team, a company, a city, a nation must have a vision, a direction with which to grow and to build. With that in mind, I want to say not only that the state of our city is strong, but that we're building and growing. And that is why we are here today in our brand new Performing Arts and Event Center for the State of the City Address. You know, in my first term, I learned a great deal. One of the things that I learned is it's probably best to practice before picking up a sledgehammer and taking a look at it. We've got a little something here for you. When I was thinking about giving the address and looking at pictures, it reminded me of this close call.
Indiana guy? Bob that guy?
All right, we ready? Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. Yeah!
All right.
Here's the good part. Right? Watch out.
Get back into I'm done. All right, guys. That's it.
Okay, what nobody really realized is the only thing I'm thinking is I came this close to knocking myself out cold. Now, the problem is the reason why I didn't go down is I envisioned what the Federal Way Mirror would say in the next edition. Mayor knocked out cold. And I decided to stay on my feet and move forward. But I can tell you that what has knocked me out cold is the beauty of this facility and where we're at right now. I hadn't had my bell rung like that since I was playing Husky football. You You know, I believe that part of our growth of the city is claiming the city and giving the people the state of the city address back to you, the people. Today's gathering is historic, and that it marks the first time that we have held this event in public, in a city-owned venue, open to the public without charge. I do hope and intend for this to become a yearly event. All right, first topic, building our downtown together. We are all here as witnesses to a historic time for our city of Federal Way, the beginning of something special. In the past, the image of Federal Way, if you were to Google and look up the city of Federal Way, that image was literally the clock on top of the Sound Transit garage. But since 11 a.m. on 11/11 of 2014, when we all came together for Veterans Day, along with our King County Councilman Pete Von Reichbauer, a United States Senator Patty Murray, at the inspiration of Bob Kellogg, to hoist a United States flag atop a 60-foot flagpole. The new image is that raised flag on the downtown section of South 320th Street, now newly designated as Veterans Way. If you were to Google and look up Federal Way, and anyone in the world who does so now sees that image. We are in the process of carving out a new downtown. The famous Renaissance sculptor Michelangelo once said, "Every block of stone has a statue inside it. It is the task of the sculptor to discover it." Federal Way is that block of granite, a masterpiece in progress. Just 4 years ago, we started with Town Square Park, which used to just be cement rubble surrounded by cyclone fence, but is now the jewel and the heart of a new downtown. It is a place we gather as a community. Then, after 9 business leaders on the blue ribbon panel I appointed to take an objective look at the project gave a resounding yes to moving forward, we went on to build this Performing Arts and Event Center, which is the fulfillment of decades of vision, decades in the making. A vision by leaders who saw not just what was right in front of them, but what was possible. People like H. David Kaplan, Joanne Paquette, Jean Burbidge, and Mary Gates, and so many, many others who formed the Federal Way Coalition of the Performing Arts, which has raised over $1 million in private funds for our PAECs. Let's give them a big round of applause for that Herculean effort. This facility is a testament to what can be accomplished when we come together as a community with vision and passion and a plan. It's important to note that this facility was built on time and on budget. We've already raised $25 million out of the $32 million cost, including $2 million in new market tax credits, in which we are the first city in this state's history to receive these type of credits. Furthermore, we just got the news late last Thursday night that the state legislature passed its long-awaited capital budget, which included our request for an additional $1 million. In fact, I want to tell you that normally the people have been hearing me talk about the fact that we've raised $24 million. After the legislature, thanks to the help and the support of our legislative delegation, with the special last-minute shoulder support by Representative Christina Reeves, we got that additional $1 million, which will help. Is that great news? Thank you, Christina. And this money will go to a kitchen upgrade for the PAEC. The kitchen upgrade will be utilized by the Native American Culinary Institute in partnership with the Muckleshoot Indian tribe, which would be the first of its kind in the nation. It must be also be stated that the construction of this facility has already pumped millions of dollars into our economy and generated hundreds of construction jobs. But we're not done. True leadership is not seeing what is just staring at you in the face, but is perhaps just around the corner. Right next to this facility, the PAEC, on just under 2 acres of the former Target property, something we call TC3, or Town Center 3. To let you know, this property here is Town Center 1. The park we refer to as TC2, or Town Center 2. The property formerly known as Target is Town Center 3. And we sold off 1.86 acres of that property for the development of a hotel. It is forecasted that construction of that hotel will provide 75 to 125 full-time jobs through the design and construction process. It is also estimated that the hotel and amenities may create 25 to 45 full-time jobs. But the hotel will also serve as a catalyst for even more mixed-use economic development in Town Center 3, or the former Target site, which will eventually be knocked down, including offices, ground floor retail, restaurants, and classrooms for education, which I'll get into in a few minutes. We will also begin construction this year on an elegant grand staircase connecting the lower level of Town Square Park and the Federal Transit Center to the hotel and the PAEC. The grand staircase is almost entirely funded from state and county funds. It's paid for. This will serve to further transform our downtown and will be a gathering place and focal point. Essentially, it's space making. It's going to be a beautiful space in our downtown. Now, moving on to Sound Transit, another key factor in the development of our downtown. Together with Sound Transit, we're building a new transit center here and building light rail to our city. This project will greatly improve the ability of our residents to commute throughout the region and will bring people from outside Federal Way into our community to shop at our businesses, participate in our events, and increase our tourism. This project is scheduled to open in 2024. The existing transit center will be reconfigured to increase parking and bus access and to serve the light rail station and to provide multiple parcels of land for development opportunities. You can see the route right there. And then eventually it'll get right back on the freeway and head back down. This will transform our downtown. Imagine, ladies and gentlemen, the downtown that you know now, the one that you're sitting in right now, you'll be scarcely able to recognize it in just a few years. It's transforming before our eyes, and we're building it together. Now, moving on to the university initiative, which I was referring to a few moments ago, I mentioned our plans for a college classroom in Town Center 3. Last January, the city signed a historic memorandum of understanding with our partners, Federal Way Public Schools, Highline College, the University of Washington, Tacoma, in a historic agreement. All of us having the shared goal to start offering higher education degree programs within the city of Federal Way. Education is key to the attainment of the American dream. Together, we and our partners are building the opportunity for higher education right here in Federal Way. This will help. Is that great? This is a vision decades in the making. And it further proves not just access, but it's also an economic driver in regard to investment in our downtown and the type of mobility that we will want to generate in our downtown. Over the past year, our two working groups, one for programming and the other for facility, have been working toward the goal of launching the program and actually having classes starting in September of 2018, this year. Working together, we've determined that our initial offerings, or class offerings, will be in the area of healthcare, education, STEM, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and accounting and finance. Eventually, our plans are to build a fully dedicated brick and mortar facility in Town Center 3, UW Federal Way. With our plans and budget in hand, we included in this year's legislative agenda a one-time startup budget request of $800,000. And we're so fortunate to have the partnership with all of those individuals that make up the MOU. Based on initial feedback, we are cautiously optimistic that we'll be successful in this request. Building community together. In addition to building downtown, we are also building our community together through enhanced communication and community events. For instance, the community has come together for neighborhood connection meetings, New Day Federal Way, my favorite, Movies in the Park, and the 4th of July Red, White, and Blues Festival that last year drew over 20,000 people to Celebration Park to enjoy good food, good music, and an amazing fireworks display. But I want to stop for there and say that 7 months after my term began 4 years ago, instead of the empty, blighted, cyclone fencing around what had been the AMC movie theater site, we had 1,000 children and family members watching movies in our downtown, coming down to our downtown instead of through it. It was amazing. In Town Square Park, the city hosts movies every summer, the annual holiday tree lighting, and other special events such as the city's 25th anniversary. There's that first movie night on the big inflatable screens. We're going to keep doing that. Town Square Park has also been a gathering place for community-sponsored events that also help build community, like this year's Friendship Day, including the use of the splash park, basketball games, music, and special treats. Friendship Day is promoted here in Federal Way by our friend Nick Wilson and Sherry Edwards, Cheryl Hurst, and Shelley Pauls, who are primary examples of what it means to be a friend. Those are the type of people that really bring community together. Building a thriving economy together, jobs and investment. Federal Way continues to witness steady business and development growth. I directed, when I first became mayor, the formulation of the city's first written economic development strategy, which was completed in 2014. It identified key targeted industries for recruitment and retention. Since then, we've been engaged with business recruitment and retention activities, which have yielded a variety of new businesses and investments. This year, several businesses have made announcements of locating and making investment here. The Fortune 500 healthcare company DaVita, which announced after years of discussion with city staff that would be building a new 400,000 square foot corporate office building next to its current location, which is on the former Weyerhaeuser property. This new facility will provide over 1,000 good paying jobs. Groundbreaking is expected this year with completion sometime in 2020. Also, the biotech firm Diagnostex has purchased and is applying for a permit to convert a former Weyerhaeuser building in the West Campus for laboratory expansion. It is the first laboratory in the United States to offer saliva-based hormone testing, a powerful tool in evaluating stress and hormone-related diseases. They will open this year and will employ over 100 scientists, with expansion to be anticipated around 165. Additionally, London Aviators Underwriters moved from Seattle in late 2017. The company handles general aviation risks, airport premises liability, and non-owned aircraft liability to individuals and company across the nation. They like the low cost of business here. They actually moved right next door to the city of Federal Way. Cogent, one of the world's largest Tier 1 internet service providers, has opened its facility. This is the first facility of its magnitude located in the city. Current carrier availability in the data center includes CenturyLink, Zayo, and Comcast. The facility is located on the north end of the former Weyerhaeuser campus. KBS, the Korean Broadcasting System, opened its doors here and began serving the 7 million viewers in the state in 2017. Founded in 1961, the Korean Broadcasting System is the first public television network in South Korea. Campion Market, a Hispanic grocery store chain, has leased the former Hagen grocery store site, also the right there on 312th and Pacific Highway. It opened last fall. As part of the reuse of the former Top Foods grocery store, the new investment brings a new retailer, Home and Home. In addition, several retail outlets opened to the facility in 2017, with more to come. In their opening weekend, they did $1 million worth of business. It was absolutely amazing. CMAR, Community Health Centers, opened a new clinic in 2017 with renovation of an existing building off Pacific Highway. It provides comprehensive health and human services in Washington State, medical services, dental services, behavioral health services, preventive healthcare services, long-term healthcare, and affordable housing and community education and learning center. Telecare came to Federal Way, a behavioral health services organization, completed construction with a 12,000 square foot, 16-bed facility in late 2017. And Kaiser Permanente, as we all know, purchased and acquired the Group Health Co-op. I actually visited their Oakland headquarters, and I'm pleased to convey their commitment for their continued presence here and possible expansion here in Federal Way. We have witnessed so much new business from interesting and fun companies such as Chick-fil-A, Mod Pizza, 85 degrees Celsius Bakery, and many more are exciting businesses are headed our way. Building a city together, our police department. We are so fortunate to have a professional, well-run police department that is partnered with our community and has the trust of our community. I believe it is important to keep in mind that the number one responsibility of any government at any level is the safety of the people for whom we represent and work. It is our job as elected officials to ensure that our police department is well-staffed and it has the tools it needs to get the job done. When I became mayor in 2014, one of the first things I did with the cooperation and the partnership of the city council was to increase the number of officers from 126 in 2014 to 131 in 2016. Now, in 2018, the city will hire another 5 new police officers for a total of 136. That's 10 more in the past 4 years. These 5 new officers are funded in part by a COPS grant from the U.S. Department of Justice. Our city was only one of 3 cities in the state of Washington to receive this grant. This is testimony to the highest level of professionalism that is exhibited by our police department under the leadership of Chief Andy Wong. Let's give Chief a big round of applause. Thank you. I should also mention that our police department is one of only 10% of agencies in the United States and only one of 7 in the state of Washington that are certified by CALEA, which gave the city of Federal Way its gold standard of excellence. Under the leadership of Chief Wong, overall crime was down 11% in 2017 compared to the year before in 2016. Resulting in the lowest overall crime rate in 5 years. But our police department cannot do it alone. We can only build a safer community together. For that reason, I have prioritized as mayor the Safe City program, a community-based initiative that unites businesses, neighborhoods, and police against crime. This program uses cameras and a website to maximize safety and minimize crime in our community. The website is an interactive tool that operates like a virtual block watch, allowing community partners to communicate with each other and with law enforcement about criminal activity impacting their neighborhoods on a real-time basis, preventing other residents from being victimized. Since becoming mayor in 2014, we have been strategic in adding more cameras throughout the city. Furthermore, as I mentioned earlier, our state legislature last week passed its long-awaited capital budget. In that budget were $250,000 more for cameras for our community to make this a safer city. We are building a safer city together. For this reason, I formed the Violence Prevention Coalition Steering Committee, if I say it really fast, VPCSC, headed by Doug Baxter, and they've done great work. It's a great group of individuals. You know, this group, as we all know, was formed in the wake of the violence that occurred in 2016. And they have done, this community really came together after that, after those challenging times. And instead of wallowing or being concerned about where we're at in regard to thinking of ourselves in a different way, we came together and said, what are we going to do together? The VPCSC came out with 10 recommendations. All of those recommendations were adopted in some form by your city council last year. One of them was a provision for a comprehensive job training program for youth in Federal Way. And it's already commenced through the YES Network, which the city is proud to co-sponsor along with Federal Way Public Schools and many other partners. The YES Network is headed by Doug Baxter as well, is currently conducting a 5-week job training program for youth at Todd Beamer High School, culminating in a job fair on April 11th of this year. Finally, last May, in conjunction with the city of, and with the coordination and help of Auburn Mayor Nancy Backus and other mayors and city managers of nearby cities, for all of the mayors in South King County and city managers, we set up the South King County Leadership Conference on Violent Crime to address violent crime and gang activity in South King County. This group fosters a coordinated regional approach to the problems of violent crime and gang activity. And it was really actually so important when we had some of that gang activity that was occurring in Seattle and Renton and Kent and other areas in our community. We came together and really talked and shut the doors and really came out with some ideas about how are we going to get ahead of this. We really approached it the way my mentor and the former King County prosecutor Norm Mailing approached it, which was to identify key offenders and remove and really focus in on them and take those individuals off the streets that were committing most of these heinous crimes. In regard to community development, under the leadership of Brian Davis, our community development department served over 14,000 customers in 2017 via phone, email, and in person. In 2017, community development issued permits of occupancy certificates to Telecare, Chick-fil-A, Elenos Yogurt, Gravity Coffee, Mod Pizza, Ace Hardware, Advance Auto Parts, the Performing Arts and Events Center, Campion, and listen to this number carefully, 3,000 others. They have been just doing a tremendous job in the community development. They also created the city's first historic preservation ordinance, improved and updated our multifamily housing development standards, and created a small cell facility. Moving on to the Parks Department, John Hutton, our Parks Department, maintains over 1,000 acres of land, 32 formal parks, and over 9 miles of trails, in addition to 25 buildings. In 2017, Parks also started a new after-school program for kids in partnership with the Federal Public Schools, taught over 1,700 kids to swim, and excelled in its inclusion programs, as shown by the sheer numbers of participants and the success of our Special Olympics teams, 2 of which qualified for the USA Games that will be hosted here in Federal Way in 2018 at the King County Aquatic Center, Celebration Park, and Event Center Town Square Park. Parks also hit all-time highs in revenue in several areas, including community recreation, senior services, inclusion recreation, and arts and special events. Dumas Bay Center also posted its all-time high in revenue, with feedback from customers consistently excellent. And our community center continues to offer, along with the recreation division, the very best programming in the area. Now, in Public Works, our streets are the envy of our neighbors in the region. Public Works continues to effectively maintain the city's roadway through its annual asphalt overlay program. In 2017, the city was able to complete over 7.2 lane miles of pavement rehabilitation. In 2018, Public Works combined their skills in obtaining grant funds with the pavement management program and received over $2 million in grants for asphalt overlays. As a result, 2018 will be a very busy year for pavement overlays at over 12.7 lane miles. Let's give them a big round of applause. You know, that's just a sample. If I actually, Marwan Saloom, who does a phenomenal job at our Public Works Director, gave me a sample of some of all the projects that they've done, and it would be too voluminous to mention here, but they really, all of our folks in our departments do a great job. Finance. Under the leadership of Finance Director Ade Irula, Moody's Investor Service reported last month that Federal Way has a very good credit position with a AA2 rating. Moody lists our credit factors as a, quote, a robust financial position, a large tax base, and a healthy socioeconomic profile, as well as a, quote, exceptionally light debt burden and mid-ranged pension liability. Moody's further reports that our economy and tax base are, quote, very healthy, with a total full value of $9.4 billion, well above the U.S. median, and saw an impressive increase between 2012 and 2016. The city also received a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award on its 2016 financial report, making it the 27th time the city has received such award since 1990. That is every year we've been a city. Now let's talk about the IRG property, or what I refer to as the property formerly known as Weyerhaeuser. Several years ago, with the departure of Weyerhaeuser and the sale of its campus to Industrial Realty Group, we were given an opportunity to work on economic development. In addition to the economic development opportunities created by the departure of Weyerhaeuser, our community has also had to think about the future of this beautiful campus, now owned by IRG. But as a community, we've come together to build the best possible outcome, and we will continue to do so. Here, I have to give a shout out to our great homegrown grassroots conservation organization, Save the Weyerhaeuser Campus, led by Lori Seacrest and many others. Let's give them a big round of applause. I've said it repeatedly. You are the finest example of a citizen activist group I have ever seen in my political career and the time I've been here. Now, I never thought, when I first saw Lori Seacrest on the front page of the Seattle Times, when all that business was going on, that Lori and I would become good friends. But we have been really working together for the future of this community and making sure that we are doing absolutely everything we can for the preservation of this property and to make sure it's used for not just for the community, but for the region. I want to assure everyone that under my leadership, we will continue to ensure that any development takes into account ecological and traffic impacts and is consistent with the letter of the law. Also, at the beginning of late last year, at my recommendation, our city council, thankfully, authorized the use of $1 million in surface water management funds, or what they call SWIM funds, towards the acquisition of a pristine wooded part of the campus on the west side of North Lake, along with an application for another $1 million from King County Conservation Futures. And once again, we have to give a shout out to our very own King County Council member for successfully sponsoring a motion directing the Conservation Futures Citizen Oversight Committee to prioritize our project. At the end of last year, we received the great news that $1 million grant had been approved for a total of $2 million for this property. Thank you, Pete. As mayor, I also authorized the partnering with Save the Weyerhaeuser campus and the statewide conservation organization Forterra that just does a phenomenal job, and you'll probably hear about them around the region, which are both working on the purchase of that North Lake property and on maintenance of open space and public access opportunities on the entire campus. With the capital budget, and this is important, with the capital budget passed last week, Forterra will now be funded for its past and ongoing conservation efforts on the former Weyerhaeuser campus to the tune of $250,000. That's big. That's very helpful for us. I want to turn the page and talk to you about homelessness. It's a painful tragedy that in a time and place of great prosperity, there are those among us who are suffering from the plight of homelessness. It is our collective duty to help build a better future for those that are suffering. I believe we need both compassion and accountability. Therefore, as mayor, I've taken a three-pronged approach to this important issue. First, I do not believe that allowing the continuance of homeless encampments in our midst reflects true compassion. In the early part of 2016, we had a large fire in the northern part of our city, just north of Steel Lake, caused by multiple propane tanks that had exploded, endangering a large wooded area and the housing development nearby. When I toured the site, I was astonished to see the staggering amount of debris and garbage and other materials left there. Sadly, that isn't this picture. This is yet another location in our community. These sites constitute a health hazard to those that stay there and to neighboring homes and businesses. If someone I loved were in one of those tents or homeless encampments, I would be there every day to pull them out. So the first prong of our three-prong approach is dismantling of these such encampments, and we've done so with dozens of these sites. At the same time, we've provided needed referrals to those individuals. The second part, and I think this is absolutely key, is the day center, which provides crucial services such as showers, laundry, phones, clothing, and hygiene items to homeless people or those at risk of homelessness, which opened exactly a year ago. And that'll help individuals. It's almost nearly impossible to go from that camp that we were just looking at to an apartment or to something. There needs to be a way, and we're looking for that way, to arrest that desperate downward spiral of homelessness and to get them back up in the right direction. And that's what the Day Center can and is doing. Third and finally, we've been blessed for many years by the participation of our faith-based institutions and others in making sure that men and women have overnight shelter during the winter through Reach Out and Catholic Community Services, serving as a fiscal agent. At the same time, we've lacked an overnight shelter for homeless families with children. To address that gap, last year I created the Homeless Mothers and Children Initiative, what we refer to as HMCI, and asked City Council member and now Deputy Mayor Susan Honda to co-chair it, along with community activist Sherry Edwards. HMCI includes representatives from the City of Federal Way, the Police Department, the City of Federal Way Community Services, Federal Way Public Schools, South King County Fire and Rescue, and others. Last November, as part of the HMCI, I invited Federal Way faith-based leaders to a luncheon at City Hall to strategize how we can best address the lack of a shelter for homeless families in the short term this winter, and also to get an idea of the inventory of services. I was so gratified that representatives from 26 churches and faith-based groups attended. We later compiled a list of over 200 faith-based leaders here in Federal Way and reached out to them. While many of them had already been working tirelessly for years, providing meals, showers, medical care, rental and utility assistance, clothing, and other services, many more stepped up to volunteer additional assistance for homeless families with children. There was a real gap in those services. At the end of last year, Pastor Rick Miller of New Hope Christian Fellowship generously offered to expand their already operating emergency condition winter shelter into a nightly shelter through the winter for homeless families with children. 3 weeks ago, I authorized the use of $15,000 of city funds toward reimbursing New Hope for its expenses on this amazingly generous offer. Last Wednesday, January 17, 2018, I am happy to report New Hope Shelter opened its doors to homeless families for the winter night shelter. Let's give them a big round of applause. I shall also mention that we have included a request for a $100,000 grant toward establishing an emergency shelter for homeless families with children in our proposed legislative agenda this year. Additionally, I want to note that I'm having my staff, we're looking into something new and possibly different. My staff is looking into the feasibility of conducting a program here in Federal Way similar to a successful program implemented in Albuquerque, New Mexico, whereby homeless individuals, particularly panhandles, are offered paid daily employment cleaning up trash and litter in public areas around the city. If implemented, this program could help on two fronts, making the city look more attractive and providing our most vulnerable citizens with a leg up. You know, it's all about dignity and respect and people's pride as well. I think allowing people the opportunity to work will have a tremendous impact. Together with our community partners, our faith-based institutions and leaders, we're building a better future for all of the people in Federal Way. With regard to air traffic, as your mayor, I've also responded to other concerns raised by community members, community concerns that impact our ability to build together. In response to concerns raised by increased air traffic, concerns that include noise, health, the environment, and economic effects, I set up the Quiet and Healthy Skies Task Force, which has been meeting monthly and is due to present its final report in the next several months. The task force in particular is exploring how our city can contribute to the environmental review of the Sustainable Airport Master Plan. The task force has had an impact on legislation being sponsored by our Congressman Adam Smith, mandating a study of the health impacts of ultrafine particles and the contributions made by aircraft to such particles. This study would complement one already in the works by the University of Washington as a result of state legislature sponsored by our own Representative Pelliciotti and Representative Tina Orwell that will assess the concentrations of ultrafine particles in our community. Also, at the recommendation of the task force, our legislative agenda includes support for amending state law so that fully authorizes the port generally to conduct abatement, mitigation, monitoring, and research with respect to all negative impacts of airport and local communities. In response to work by our task force, Representative Pelliciotti is currently sponsoring a bill that would expand the abatement area to 12 miles, thereby including the city of Federal Way, which is currently excluded from mitigation and abatement activities under state law. We testified in favor of Representative Pellicciotti's bill last week. I've also appointed staff and community activist representatives to a new airport stakeholder group made up of representatives from South King County cities, Port of Seattle, and the FAA, and several major airlines. Ladies and gentlemen, the city is poised for further success. We live in a terrific city, and together we can build it to be even better. The road goes through Federal Way for the 2020 Tokyo Summer Olympics. In November, we hosted the U.S. Olympic Committee USA Diving to express our interest in once again hosting the Olympic trials for diving. Given the results of their visit, they invited us to submit an application. We now stand prepared to make our case in 2018, illustrating that our community is the one and only place to host these trials. Here is the video of that application. amazing? Let's give Tim Johnson and his team a big round of applause. I don't know how those guys do it. I can barely kind of creep up to the edge. I don't know how those guys do those triple somersaults, but it's amazing. In the meantime, later this summer, we will be witnessing an estimated 35,000 visitors descending upon Federal Way in less than 45 days. 3 major events will bring visitors to Federal Way. The International Underwater Robotics Competition will be held here in mid-June. It will bring participants from around the globe. It will be followed by the National Special Olympic Games during the first week of July. The Games will be using a multitude of events from the Key County Aquatic Center, Celebration Park, Town Square Park, and the Performing Arts and the Event Center. Federal Way will receive plenty of national television coverage as ESPN will be covering the Games. Finally, the Young Ladies National Fast Pitch Tournament will be held in mid-July. This event will bring over 125 teams. Couple these with the annual events at the Rhododendron Garden, Bonsai Museum, Powell's Wood, the Pepsi Northwest Women's Golf Tournament, the Federal Way Knights Annual Baseball Tournament, and the Desna Cup. Much is happening. The future we're building together is looking very bright. Now, in conclusion, anyone who knows me knows that I'm a student of history. As a student of history, I'm often reminded of crucial times that turned the tide in key events. One of those was the 1787 Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia. It's easy to look at where we stand today as a great nation and to think about our rise and the genius of our Constitution, that it was somehow all inevitable. At the time, though, it did not appear that way. I want you to imagine the sweltering summer heat of Philadelphia in 1787 in a room smaller than this. There was heated debate. At times, it seemed as if compromise would be impossible to achieve. The outcome was uncertain. Just 11 years earlier, a younger Benjamin Franklin was involved in the drafting of the Declaration of Independence, along with John Adams and Thomas Jefferson, the founding document of our nation. Now, 11 years later, the old man literally had to be carried into the hall in his feeble state. At a crucial moment, the older and frail but wise Franklin rose to comment on what he was observing. Washington, who was presiding as president of the convention, was sitting in a chair that had the symbol of the local carpenter union in Philadelphia, a half sun on the horizon, on the back of the chair. Franklin feebly rose and said, "Mr. President, it is my firm belief that the sun on the back of your chair surely represents the sun rising on this great nation and not setting." So too do I see the city of Federal Way with all its opportunities and challenges at the crossroads of a new beginning. I truly believe that the sun is surely rising on this great city. With our history of beautiful parks, close-knit neighborhoods, and strong families, and with the current growth opportunities presented by our very healthy economy and tax base, our university initiative, our town center plans, and the expansion of light rail, together we're building the future of Federal Way as the South King County hub for the 21st century. Back in August of 2016, as is customary, I and other City of Federal Way's officials participated in a topping off ceremony for this PAEC building where we are gathered today. As part of that ceremony, we all signed the last structural beam to be hung at the entranceway. In fact, everyone in this room today walked under that beam when entering this building. Into the very foundation of this building, I wrote those words that I started with today. Together we build. Ladies and gentlemen, together we can, together we will, together we build. Thank you. Now, please give your undivided attention to the Thomas Jefferson Chamber Choir as they will provide us with the music that will be marched out to.
I can tell the world, yes, about this. I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. I can tell the world, yes, about this. I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. I can tell the world, yes, about this. I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. Yes, I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm telling what my Lord has done. Tell the conqueror has come, and he brought joy, joy, joy to my soul. I can tell the world, yes, about this. I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. I can tell the world, yes, about this. I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. Yes, I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. What my Lord has done. Tell the conqueror has come, and he brought joy, joy, joy to my soul. I can tell the world, yes, about this. I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. My Lord done just what he said.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He healed the sick and he raised the dead.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He lifted me when I was down.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
He placed my feet on solid ground.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
I can tell the world, yes, about this. I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. I can tell the world, yes, about this. I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. Yes, I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed.
Tell what my
Lord has done. Tell him the conqueror has come, and he brought that morning, hallelujah, that morning, hallelujah. I can tell the world, yes, about this. I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed. Yes, I can tell the nations, yes, that I'm blessed.
Tell what
My Lord has done. Tell him the conqueror has come.
Lord, he brought
Joy that morning when he saved me.
joy
That morning when he blessed me. I'll tell it how he brought this joy to my soul.
Well, thank you so much for coming. We've got a reception out with some refreshments. Thank you very much.